The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
In the history of the United States, those words have never been spoken.
Speaker Kevin McCarthy lost the job that he fought tooth and nail for just 9 months after taking office and leaving the Republican Party deeply divided. Political analyst Basil Smikle joining us this morning with more insight on what this means for both Republicans and Democrats and the country moving forward, because now we're once again, Basil, we've said this many times with you, in unprecedented times, historic moments that we continue to see, right? So yesterday's vote confirmed what we already knew, that the Republican Party is in a bit of crisis. What comes next?
Well, what's interesting is that you had Representative Comer coming out of a closed-door meeting after this happened, speaking to the press saying they have no plan. And that, I think, tells you everything you need to know about what transpired yesterday, that you had 8 Republican members having the ability, after one raised their hand to say they had essentially no confidence in the current in Speaker McCarthy, got him out of office. What they've decided to do is essentially take a recess for a week, hold a candidate forum to figure out who they all want to get behind when the vote does come, likely a week from today. So yes, it's an unprecedented time, but it's also a very dangerous time, because when there's no speaker, there are no rules governing the chamber, which means there's no work getting done. And that's just sad for the American people.
And the other thing is, I mean, this doesn't bode well for whoever is chosen to be the next speaker, right? I mean, if one lawmaker can make the decision to oust the speaker, I mean, then that kind of hangs over their head, whoever is chosen next.
You know, I said something to that effect when Speaker McCarthy was actually elected, because if you remember, it took 15 votes, and with every successive vote, he had to give something away. He had to sort of essentially promise something to be able to get a step further in the process. Maybe the next speaker vote ends up being a lot quicker, but what I've always said is because it's so easy to get rid of that speaker, whoever it is, it's not really their job. You know, they don't really have an opportunity to govern and install their sort of vision into the institution and into the processes. It really belongs to those 8 members who can easily vote you out. And that's just not good for the institution at all.
So where do we go from here then, Basil, right? Because McCarthy's out. We're in that 45-day period where they really need to be negotiating for a government shutdown, right? But now we need to have a speaker. What are the names being floated about right now? Steve Scalise, which is the House Majority Leader right now, is he lobbying to be the next speaker? You know, Jim Jordan is a name floated about that many American and New Yorkers may know. What comes next?
Yeah, so Scalise and Jordan are names that have certainly come up. Patrick McHenry, who's in a leadership position now, and you saw him wield the gavel yesterday. He's in that position as a sort of post 9/11 measure to make sure that there was always continuity in government. So those are names being bandied about, as well as many others. And this is the issue with the sort of no plan comment, that there was never really a successor groomed and primed for this moment.
So why do it? Why go for the vote to oust a speaker when there's no plan and your party is in control?
Well, if you listen to McCarthy, he'll say it's purely personal that Matt Gaetz decided to do this. And if you pay attention to sort of their relationship, it does seem highly personal. But what they would say is that they were angry at McCarthy for partnering with Democrats to keep government open. But guess what? In averting one shutdown, you've actually created yet another one. So this is where the logic just doesn't really make sense here. But to answer your original question, hard to say where we go, hard to say who's going to really step into the sort of next leadership position. They're going to have to figure out who they can all get behind, because ultimately what you're going to see is Democrats continuing to vote for Hakeem Jeffries and probably a dozen other candidates on the right having to sort of jockey for the process.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, it's turned into somewhat of a circus because we really don't know what's going to happen next. But what has been floating around is that the speaker doesn't have to be a sitting member of Congress, right? So we're hearing that some are trying to nominate the former president, Donald Trump, to serve as the next speaker. How possible is that?
It's true that you don't have to be a sitting member of Congress to get the job, but anything's possible, and that's what's sad. I wish I could tell you of all the years of schooling that I've had to be able to say, no, that's not happen. That can't happen. Here's this and that. But the reality is, we're in a time and a place in our country where anything can happen. But I will say this: one of the things that McCarthy was extraordinary at was raising money for his party.
Mm-hmm.
There are 18 seats. There are 18 seats in this country where Republicans occupy congressional seats that were won by Joe Biden. 6 of those are in New York. And he was important and critical in having that happen. There's an upstate rural suburban member, Michael Lawler. I've known him for years. We disagree on some policy issues, but he's one of those sort of new Republican members that's screaming, saying, the job of the speaker is to protect the new members, protect those seats. And you have all of these members saying, they feel vulnerable because they're in a flippable seat. So it's really left the party internally in a state of civil war.
It's very interesting because Mike Lawler is somebody himself who is in a very toss-up district come next election cycle, right? So he's trying to toe the line on both sides. Basil, we're out of time.
That's right.
Appreciate you being here for your insight on, once again, a historic moment for this country. Good to see you.
Thank you.